What's up, guys? This is Poducer, the podcast for producers. Today we are joined by Ternion Sound.
Poducer.
I like to start out with just a little fun question. This is something I ask all my guests on the long form podcast. What was your first concert that you attended? And we'll just go down the line.
So the first concert that I attended unwillingly was
That's always the best when you're taken hostage.
was Warped Tour with my cousins, which I didn't want to go to, but I had a good time anyways. I was like 12. But the first thing that I went to on my own was a rave in 2005 at NCN where Infrasound used to be, and it was called Blue Shift 2. So that was the first actual thing, in my opinion. It's the first thing, period. Because I didn't really like music until I found hardcore gabber stuff. So, yeah.
DDR, dude, I love DDR. And I'll just say there's no shame in the Warped Tour answer because that's actually a lot of people's answer. It's a lot of people's first concert, so.
First legitimate show concert I went to when I was in junior high, my friend Luke, who was the bass guitar player in our crappy little punk band, took me to see the Gigantour, which was a Megadeth show. And it was Job for a Cowboy was playing. It was incredible. We were scared to death and also so excited. But yeah, death metal for me was going right into just really heavy music.
Real quick.
Yeah, I mean, that was our progression of what we were listening to. It was first this softer punk stuff and then metal and technical, and then we went to the show and it was awesome. So it was a great time.
The first show that I went to out of my own volition, because I wanted to really, and had the means finally, I wasn't a child, was Rusco at the Loft.
Oh, no way.
Rusco, so that was either 2010 or 2009, I can't remember. 2009? Yep. Yeah, and so that obviously, I was really into drum and bass before that, and then I was just getting into dubstep. I was I'm not quite sure who all these people are, and I saw that, and my life was changed, of course, because that was also what a moment to see Rusco, too. It's so sick.
Yeah. Rusco's a classic. Cool, good answers. No one got an F on that question. You did good. One of the questions I wanted to ask you guys was, you guys have these pillars. When you got together, you wanted to have, an aim. You wanted to have some pillars that you stand on as you move forward. And one of them was to play on good sound systems. And my question to you is, what is your favorite sound system you've had the good fortune to play on? Because there's a lot of bad ones. We could talk about the bad ones too, but...
I think my favorite system still to this day is that Danley system that we played on at that tiny Colorado festival in way out west. It was in the middle of a desert. Yeah, it was I can't remember what it's called. It was in the mountains. I don't know. But anyways, it was a Danley rig installed inside of a pyramid with lights on it. And I like Danley a lot. It's the closest I've heard to being in the studio. Just really clean, clear. You could hear all the reverb tails. The low end was good. So it's probably my favorite.
Okay.
This is really hard to pick a number one favorite. I'm gonna be that guy and give you just a couple at least. Huge fan of Sean Hennessy and the Intent Audio sound system. Absolutely, dude. But yeah, Sean, Intent Audio, great people, incredible sound, custom built. Infrasound, Function One, main stage. Shout out to Phil and Shayna at Sound System Cultures LLC. We love them. They do an incredibly good job. And let's see, is there a number three? I'm going to shout out the Element 5 team. That is actually on stage 2 tonight. We love playing their sound system as well.
I was just going to bring up a quick story, but is it the first time we played Lunar Tide? I think that was also the first time we played on HSD, yes. Right? And there was...
Yeah,
probably?
Yeah.
Okay, and It was one of the first times that I heard a specific note in one of our songs. I think it's Bargain Bins, goes down to this like low B or something like that. And I remember just like, I don't know if that mixes online, it might be, but I just wheeled it back and I was like, oh my God, I could hear the note or something like that. I was like geeking out. So anytime that we have a system that is good, but the engineer who can tune it really well, we're happy, honestly.
For sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I just wanted to quickly go over, because this is kind of like a two-part question, but we got a triad group here, and in a lot of ways, I think you guys have a big leg up on competition in the sense that you got 6 eyes, 6 ears, 6 hands. How many fingers is that? It's a lot. 30 fingers. Yeah, I had to do math. But like, do you guys feel like that does give you the leg up? Obviously, there's money involved with these things and that it gets spread out. But like, I kind of wanted to just get into that because it's not normal, or you don't see it that much, that there's 3 people. I also have this thing. I played a lot of video games, and me and my friend, we would always say, you need a fresh set of hands because we're trying to beat this thing. You're getting overworked. You need a fresh set. So I just kind of wanted to hear what you guys thought, and also maybe like the predominant roles between you guys.
Just to jump off that fresh set of hands thing, I think the only way that, or the most obvious way that comes to mind for me is like playing a set. It can be really nice to play a set by yourself because it's very easy to craft the story. But in other situations, or with sets that are 2 hours or longer, or an unknown situation, or one where you're kind of wrestling with the crowd a little bit, it's really nice to have at least one other person to like help you in a flustered moment, or like to come in and just crush it. So you're like, they come in and crush it. The crowd's like butter. And then you're like, okay, I'll pick up the slack again or whatever. I'll come back in,
I know what to play now.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, those are the kind of situations where it can be really helpful. I would say it's probably just like there's pros and cons, And so we try to emphasize a lot of the pros and try to, I guess, de-emphasize or deal with the cons of having multiple member group.
Yeah, and as far as continuing with like the live mixing component, we do all our own individual like playlisting for everything. And that keeps things really exciting for us because we get to surprise each other all the time. And that adds like a whole different element to playing together. It feels like it's riskier too, because I don't know what Andrew and Jack are going to play. But when those moments happen, when the blends are just right for everybody, it really feels special. And it keeps us excited about what we're doing versus if it was just me, playing like, I know this set really well, I'm going to play it at all our shows. It's never the same because there's 3 people. And then as far as the other part of your question too, with dividing up responsibilities, I don't know if we could be able to do the project at this level without the way that we divide everything up, everything from, all the back end business stuff, accounting, social media, our management and agency, as well as the 3 of us too. Like we try to stay really involved with all the background stuff too, because we like the control and to understand that the moves we're making are intentional and not just like letting someone else, book all the shows without thinking about it. And even with our writing process, Jack and I handle a lot of the touring, traveling and going out and playing shows. Andrew stays home more, so then he actually takes more responsibility for the writing and finishing tunes and mastering for us as well. There's a lot that goes into it, so I'll pass the mic to Jack now.
Yeah, I think the only real cons are that money gets split 3 ways. So we get paid the same amount as every other act that's the same size of us who can sell the same amount of tickets, but there's 3 of us, so you divide that money all by 3, which can cause, someone else at our scale, I think, would be in a better place financially.
But then they might be paying someone.
They will pay someone to do some stuff, though, which is one thing. Yes, totally. And then the expenses can be higher, too. So, like with flying and stuff, it's hard to get all 3 of us to the other side of the country sometimes because flights will cost too much. Or if it's in, like, a small town that doesn't have a big airport, getting all 3 of us could cost, like, well into $1,000 or more dollars, So we have to balance that, and we did. But the nice thing is that we can split up the dates. So like Andrew stays at home a lot. Eric and I take a lot of the dates, but then sometimes we split stuff up and do stuff solo. So like we all get breaks. We don't have to tour as hard as individuals. Yeah.
Group tours a lot.
For sure.
But individually, it's a little easier.
For sure. Well, I feel blessed that we got all three of you here today. That's awesome. I know it's not always like that. I also just wanted to ask, you got other iconic three-person duos. We got Noisia. I feel like that must be a big influence. Okay. But also I wanted to ask, out of Skrillex, Fred Again, and Fortet, which one of you is most likely to play country rhythm in a set?
Probably me. I don't know. Probably me. I have been playing some rhythm in our sets occasionally, and then like I'll pull out some of the classics, and like depending on how tonight goes, maybe I'll play some of my old nostalgia days stuff, which is just super loud compared to what we do now, But like trying to find the tasteful ones. We don't play as many joke tracks. I think the closest thing we played to like a joke or a surprise track lately was the Limp Bizkit flip.
Yeah.
And the thing about that song is it's just so good. It's really hard not to play it. Yeah.
Yeah, like it doesn't disappoint. Okay, cool. I also just briefly want to talk about your album because it's a really cool project. 26 songs. That's a lot of songs. I feel like that probably goes into the division of labor. But I also liked how you guys made it so it mixes into one another. And I kind of wanted to ask about how, is it harder since you've already pre-mixed it into an album to DJ then? Like, does it get kind of...
Well, all of the tunes, there's two versions of all the tunes. So there's the album version, which is mixed, and then there's the extended cuts, which is what we have for DJing. And it's also, you can buy it on Bandcamp if you go purchase the album. And I believe on Beatport and Juno, if they're up there, because the way that we wanted it was that anywhere where you listen to music, like streaming services where it's primarily designed for listeners, we wanted that to be mixed, because with dubstep, it's meant to be mixed. It's for DJs. It's for live environments. It's not really meant to be listened to a single track on its own. The intros are kind of boring. It's just a hi-hat and a pad, because it's just for the DJ to hear. It's not necessarily for anyone else to hear. But then we wanted because of that, to have the DJable tunes, the extended cuts, on the platforms where DJs go to buy music. So like Bandcamp, Juno, Beatport, etc., stuff like that. So we're able to DJ all of them because we use the extended versions. And then we have been playing them too for years before the album came out. They were just unreleased dubs that would be in our sets. So
For sure.
Yep.
For sure. I'm sorry you got like a wobbly chair here, by the way. Yeah, it's like a rocking chair. We actually planned that. I also, this is just like a naive question. When it comes to like dubs that people put out on SoundCloud, it's like a minute 20 little sampler, and I feel sad sometimes because I can't get the full track. I'm just curious what you guys think of that, and like what the real game plan for DJs is for doing that. Like, do they end up releasing the full version, or is it just that you want to you have to go see the full set?
You want to start?
I want to start this question, yes. SoundCloud dubs. Getting exclusive music from people is all about building trust and relationships with them. Unless, of course, maybe it also reminds me of years ago when I would just send, Crowell or Bomber, one of these guys, just buy them from them directly. But that's not so much. We don't do any of that. It's a lot more about, does this person trust me enough to know that I'm not going to leak this tune or give it to someone or put it up for free somewhere? So it's kind of, are you out and active and playing shows, and you can kind of show this person without telling them that you can trust me and I'm legitimate. What do you want to say about dubs?
Well, I think there's a lot to be dove into about the differences between club nights, DJing, concerts, rock music, all this kind of stuff. And like, when I got really into music, I've always been into music, but it was like piano and rock for a long time. When I got into electronic music, it was just the freshness is so exciting. And like listening to a mix and hearing something that blows your mind, you have no clue where it is and you just gotta find it and stuff like that.
You gotta go back to that mix.
Yeah, exactly. You got to go back to that mix. And going to shows, I started to only go to electronic shows for so long, I kind of forgot what it was like to go to other shows. And then when you re-interface with someone who's like into rock music or something, you're like, I know every song they're gonna play, and I'm so excited, and I sing along, and it's so different than like what we do. We want to like showcase fresh stuff. We're also improvising and reacting to the room, you know? So it's just like a completely different way of thinking about things. And like for a while, I was so confused at why people would ever go to a show where they knew what the music was gonna be. Like, why would you go see a rock band? You know all these songs. What's the point? You know, so I went so far this way, and now I can just see it's just different strokes or whatever. But like, I love the dubs game. I absolutely love it. And even if I don't get a dub, it like really hurts, of course. You really want it, but that's part of the fun, you know? And like some versions of tunes, like I'll look for old mix rips from like, I mean, even the 90s or something like that. But like, I'll find the version 1 of a track that someone made that literally doesn't exist anymore, you know? And then you can collect that little piece. Yeah. I know Jack wanted to say something about that.
I was just going to say that the whole concept of the dubs game, if you think about it historically too, coming from Jamaica, where they were importing, you know, dub DJs, reggae DJs way back in like the 50s, even 60s era. They're importing music from the States, and oftentimes there was like a lot of competition between different DJs and sound systems. So they wanted to have the most exclusive music coming in, and if they had access to the shipments that were coming, they would actually, sometimes some of them would like take a bunch of copies of a record so no one else could have it. Then they'd scrape off the label so no one could know what it was, who it was by, what it was called, or anything like that, so that they would have this exclusive track that nobody else had, and then you had to go see them to hear it, and then through that they would get, you know, like an exclusivity built for themselves, and then that turned into a whole thing. And then the early like you've got like the jungle scene in the 90s there was a lot of dubs. There's still dubs from jungle music in the 90s that have never come out because only select people got them, because they were only cut to like a few acetate records distributed, and then whatever the DAT tape is probably gone. And then, eventually, obviously, it evolved to like SoundCloud, where it's like you're uploading that 1 minute clip so you can say, hey, look at what I have. And only I have this, and like maybe my close friends who I trust. But if you want to hear it, you have to come to the show. And I think that's like a big part of our music, and even talking about the album, the theory with it is that it's made for dancing. It's made for dance floors and shows. And the whole point is for you to come out and experience it live. And adding the dubs game element and the exclusivity and all of this kind of like meta narrative and meta game to it kind of adds to the experience for both the musicians and like the really dedicated consumers and fans who like kind of stay abreast of that stuff in general.
It's like the teaser track, you know, it's like the teaser for the new movie that's coming out. Just to stick on this for a sec, I'm just curious, when you're going about like talking to people about a dub that they've made and you want to get the full version, what's like good etiquette? Is it just knowing them? Like,
Knowing them.
just knowing them is a good thing to be like, yo, you guys trust? I mean, you guys talked about trust a lot.
Yeah. So it is a tricky minefield. You definitely don't want to like bother someone really bad. Like, you have to kind of play a little bit of like a can I have this game? But I think if you're up and coming and you're a producer, it's really valuable to have dubs because you're playing them at your shows or whatever. So trade. So we always try to push, and sometimes it doesn't happen, but like you want to give one and get one if you can. But again,
It's like some people your best stuff and they send you their worst.
Or that just came out already, and you're like, oh, I could have bought this, dude.
yeah, so it's a little bit of this like kind of pissing contest or something, like are you on my level sort of game, which is all mental and whatever. But like if you're homies, if you built trust, if you're playing good shows and you have good music, the easiest way to get dubs is to have really good dubs of your own, you know? And then if you got a hot track everybody wants, suddenly the doors have just opened and everybody's sending you tracks because they want your track, you know? So what's kind of nice about that is like to take from the scene, you've given to the scene in a way, you know. So that's kind of nice.
It's kind of like a trading card. It reminds me of, like, I got my dub trading card.
Holographic.
Yeah, I got that holographic Charizard. Thank you for breaking that down, because I've always been confused about that. One thing I wanted to ask you guys about, because I saw this on some of your tracks, and you guys also played a live set. I'm forgetting where it was, but it was in this like triangle, like infrasound pyramid. You guys played a UKG set.
Yes.
And I just wanted to talk about like bass music, UKG, and the crossover, and just like how you guys feel about the sound.
For us, a big part of what we're trying to do is, I say we're like looking back to look forward. So it's me personally, especially, I know I listen to like a lot of older electronic music, because I think that there's like various eras, you know, it's been around since the 80s, and there's a lot of eras that have came and gone and are lost to time, like people have just forgotten about. And people forget about it oftentimes because it's not being categorized, it's not being continued to be shown to people. So you kind of have to be, in a sense, like a librarian, still continuing, like an archivist, still continuing to show people this old stuff and keeping it relevant in the fold. And I think there's a lot of interesting ideas that were kind of left behind. And with UKG, UK Garage, for anyone who doesn't know. Garage, yeah. I say garage because I'm from Minnesota.
No, I say garage too.
Yeah, right.
It's like garage.
Right. And we Americans invented it. I will die on this hill. But no, well, the Brits turned it into what it is, you know. But garage was an American genre. It's a whole thing.
Okay, go look it up.
Yeah. But the thing with UKG and with a lot of the bass music scene now is so many of the kids that go to shows now, 18 to 22 years old, their first shows were in like maybe the late 2010s or the mid 2010s, and their entire concept of bass music is like Datsik, Excision, Bass Nectar, Flux Pavilion, Skrillex, etc. And maybe they have a little bit of knowledge of like the kind of dubstep that we do through like Rusko or like Benga or Scream or something, but then that's where it kind of stops. The line for a lot of people stops at like 2008 to 2010. But one thing a lot of people don't realize is that even before 2008, there's 6 years of dubstep history, which is, you know, a lot of the halftime stuff starts in like 05, 04. But prior to that, there was like this time where it was in between what it is now and UKG, because it was like a response to the garage scene basically becoming very commercialized, very poppy, very like popping bottles in the club, drinking champagne. All the girls are, you know, wearing a bunch of white and stuff. And yeah, it just very bottle servicey, I think. And so it's like a reaction to that becoming darker and becoming more, I guess, serious. I don't know. There's some problems with that reaction, I think, but that's where it all comes from. And I think that remembering that history to give context to everything that's going on now, so that we understand why we're here and why things sound the way they are, and like the different aspects of the culture are the way that they are, is super important. So
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Something people might find interesting too, just about right now, this moment, is that swing is back. And when dubstep was like invented, it was like using house and swingy loops, you know, and that kind of like probably MPC swing or something like that. And
Benga.
yeah, Benga. Yeah, Benga, if you want to research it and really learn it, he's the one. But so, and then we kind of got really, really stompy and straight timey during those like 2010s eras and stuff like that with the tear out. And now swing's become really cool. And I'd say like probably the top of that right now is Hamdi, right? Like Hamdi with Skanka and all that stuff or whatever. Like it's just very obvious. Yeah. And here he is right now. But so it's really been interesting to hear the swing come back, because it's technically an old school way of doing it, but it's so dancey. So that's like a really cool, like, you know how everything goes in a circle, like it's just kind of like coming back around again. Now that we're taking those rhythms back again, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. Oh, balloon down.
Balloon.
No guns. Okay, sorry, that threw me off. That threw me off. I'm not gonna lie. I had a question and it just popped. Well, okay. Thank you for giving us a little bit of an education on UKF. I was also thinking when you were talking about it, like when I got into this, like UKF was big, and I remember Burial had that Archangel album, and like that's kind of UKF-y, and then also, but it's like, I'm sorry, UKG.
Future Garage is what they were calling it at the time.
But it was like that hyper dub era, but it literally sounded like a washing machine off its kilter, like yeah.
He didn't write using a grid.
Yeah, he used like basically Audacity. Yeah, I heard about that. You know, this is a great way to segue into the next question, which is another one of your pillars is education. And I just wanted to touch a little bit about how you think about when you're going to educate someone with this music. How do you go about doing that? And obviously right now we're doing some of that, but through like a DJ set or, yeah.
I felt like I would just start this off is, I'm an educator. I do a lot of private lessons and stuff like that. But I think we are always hoping that our audience has the most like enriched experience possible. And I think we've just learned that when you can learn a lot about the roots and the history and like the context of everything that's going on, which takes time. It takes a long time. And some people just don't have that time. Some people are just going to be like a fan. They're going to pop in and go. That's cool. But you're going to have a much deeper and more rewarding experience the more you know about what's going on. Not to mention, you'll catch the tricks that either we put in our tracks or our DJ sets. Like, you'll get the inside jokes. You'll get all the moments and stuff like that. So I think I like to lean into that a little bit as, like, why would any, like, DJ group have education when we're not, like, doing regular tutorials or anything like that? Like, what do you mean about education? It's just about having a more enriched experience, more context clues and stuff like that.
I think one thing that we really try to be consistent at is just being fully transparent about everything that we're doing. I know personally, I've always had so many questions for artists that I admired a lot, whether it was, business stuff or production or DJing or any of that. But we are always trying to just be open in places like this when we're interviewing. And also just in person, we're just people. We're just a couple of corn-fed boys from Minnesota. And, come ask us a question. We'd love to tell you about anything. So it's always really fulfilling to be able to talk about what, we do is really like and how we do it and why we do it as well. That just feels like it's trying to help people understand our intentions behind everything and what it takes to do the stuff that we're doing as well.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the other reasons why it's important, in my opinion, to educate people and then for people to know about the history of what they're listening to is that, say like, if you're on Twitter, right, there's a lot of discourse. There's a lot of scene drama. There's a lot of problems. Everyone's always got some kind of problem. And a lot of the stuff that's going on, I don't think people realize is problems that have been solved hundreds and hundreds of times historically, and if your frame of reference is purely in this moment in the last like couple of years, you might not even realize that the thing that you're dealing with has been solved by someone else before in the past. And, a lot of people, I think, have this mindset where they're like, okay, this is just the way things are. And they look at the world in its current state and they believe almost that it's like human nature for things to be exactly as the way they are now. But if you look historically and you educate yourself a little bit, you can see humanity in various ways, not just in the music scene, but in every other way in life, has organized itself into a multitude of different systems and ways of working. So any system that we're currently in isn't necessarily like just the way that it is. You know what I'm saying? So I think that history and education is a way of deconstructing and critically looking at systems and saying like, does it really need to fucking be this way, or can we tweak it in some way? Has it been a different way in the past? Is this something that it's always been? Is it something that's malleable and changeable? And how can we make it better going forward in the future? And I think that's kind of like a dialectical process, to use a term from philosophy. where you kind of chisel away at the bullshit over the course of history.
And honestly,
Yeah.
dialectical meaning two people, and we're doing 4 right now. I mean, it's you can still get points across with 4 people. But yeah, dude, I really appreciate you guys for saying that, because something we try to do here with the podcast is definitely educate people, like get them to understand a little bit more about the music that they're listening to. So I really appreciate you guys shedding some light on the different topics that we've gone over. And yeah, I mean, this is probably a great place to stop. I feel like we've been going for a little bit. I know you guys are on a little bit of a time crunch. I just wanted to thank you guys again. Are we still good? Are we still, I could do like one more question. Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, we can do one more.
Yeah.
One more question. Okay, cool. Well, this is just a pretty blanket question, but you know, who are some guys right now? You guys mentioned Hamdi. You know, you guys are also mentioning Banga, but Koki's fire too. That fucking song with the squid. You know what I'm talking about. Who are some guys right now who are just you guys look up to and think that they're doing a really good job?
I'm on fire for Chesco right now, who just released his, I think it's a 3 or 4 track EP on 1985 last weekend. He's Italian. Man, there's so many, honestly. A bunch of our friends, Buca's Finest, he's got a new rhythm project if you're into that. Fine Buster. Kurza, good homie. He's got a collaborative project called S Merc. There's Anna Morgan downstairs. We love Dr. Jeep for some techno and jungle flavors. My boy Tunic out here is like a young Whittler, also the Whittler, the dawn of the States, the educator of American deep dubstep. Yeah, you guys have anybody you want to shout out right now?
Simula.
Simula drum and bass, absolutely sick.
I've been really into the modern jungle movement that's kind of picking up where the 90s left off with jungle music. So a record label is Future Retro, I think it's called. It's Tim Reaper's record label, is really good. I've been really into lately. Tim Reaper's really good. And then Sully, not the American Sully, the dubstep guy. Same spelling though, but he's a jungle guy from the UK. He makes really forward-thinking, like modern jungle. And Coco Bryce is also really good. So those guys, jungle is a huge inspiration for us lately, and just because of the different percussive rhythms and stuff you can do with it. So yeah.
I got a few more if you don't mind.
Yeah.
This is like my favorite part of it too. Got to shout out Distinct Motive. Yes, Distinct Motive, a homie from Canada, always slaying tunes. Die by the Sword, DMVU, Chicago homie, now he's in Denver. What was the other one that I was just gonna say? Oh my god, I'm absolutely blanking on this. I try and get everybody on Select. Speaking of which, self-plug if you want us to play your music, TernionSoundDubs@gmail.com. I'm always trying to find new and upcoming tunes and artists, so we would love to listen to what you are making. I remembered Truant, his Rinse FM mixes are absolute butter. He's really into that swing kind of stuff that we were just talking about, as well as playing techno stuff, Left Low, Rare Man, Sedan, a lot of these like minimal swing guys. We love what they're putting out. Anybody from Bristol, for God's sake, it's just there's something in the water in Bristol where they just poop excellence. So, yeah, that's it for now, I suppose.
Okay, all right. Well, that was quite the list. Just really quick, where can people find you guys, and where can people find you guys next, like on a tour? Like just a little plug real quick.
If you want to find us on the internet, Instagram, Ternion Sound, Twitter, Ternion Sound, the usual places, Spotify, SoundCloud, whatever. As far as tour, I don't know when this will go up, but
in the next month.
okay. 2 weeks from now we play in Denver at the Black Box. On New Year's Eve, we play in Philly. These two play in Philly. And I will be going to New Zealand to play a festival. And then I'll be staying there for a month, playing some shows, and then playing some shows in Australia while these guys play at home here in the States. Or sleep. I will not be sleeping very much for that period of time.
January, I know we have Boise, Idaho, and North Warehouse, Portland to support Boogie T. And then I don't know how much after that is announced yet. So yeah, but we're working on next year's stuff as we speak.
Go check out Ternion Sound. These guys are doing a lot of stuff. Thank you guys again for coming out. This was sick. Really appreciate it. All right, guys, I hope you got something out of this. I hope you got educated. We'll catch you next time.
Sweet.